For the past several chapters, Kohei Horikoshi has been applying a massive amount of pressure onto the shoulders of each and every character within the series, the one who's been holding the most weight on his shoulders being Deku. Whether it be as early as the war arc with Shigaraki beating him in a straight-up confrontation to him letting Bakugo injured, and in the most recent two chapters of the series allowing All For One to completely trick and manipulate him, with the weight of the world seemingly be on his shoulders, I think what we are seeing now and what we are going to continue to see is the negative spiral of Izuku Midoriya. This negative character arc of Deku's, where he takes his heroism just a tad bit too far, and he takes the burdens of the world completely on his shoulders and moves in a way counterintuitive to his end goals, is something that I suspected from Kohei Horikoshi. It even speculated on months ago in a video. And while I wasn't exactly hitting the nail on the head, I did call that this negative arc, this negative spiral for Deku would occur. However, I'd like to say this. Contrary to popular belief, and as many people would have you believe, Deku has not made a 180 turn in his character. In fact, I think that this has been the most natural next step in the evolution for a truly and wholeheartedly altruistic character like Deku in a dark, grim world like the My Hero Academia universe. And this is something that I think has been built up for an extremely long time. Time and time again, he is forced to watch as people close to him or just genuinely good people are put into harm's way, all because of his lack of strength and the enemy's cunning mind. In Deku's head, abandoning everyone around him to go fight on his own is simply the most logical and reasonable choice. If no one is around him, if no one is in the general vicinity of him when he's in danger, they should be safe from failures, and they should be safe from the villains that fight him, or at least so he thinks. Now, I would like to say that this negative spiral is not something Deku will remain in forever. It's very likely based off of the last few panels of the chapter and in general with other characters' thematic importance, that either Uraraka or Stain or a combination of the two are going to forcibly open Deku's eyes to his hypocrisy and idiocy that he has within himself and snap him back to his usual, more lighthearted, much more teamwork-oriented self. But one thing that I find extremely interesting about the negative spiral is the amazing and outstanding build-up. You see, Horikoshi is masterful when it comes to the build-up of his characters, and specifically in Deku's case, it's just slight enough that unless you carefully comb through the manga, you wouldn't see it. But it's present enough that you can track the breadcrumbs in order to see where it's going in the future, which, in my opinion, is the perfect mix in order to get a good amount of foreshadowing. Ever since the end of the war arc in the series, Deku has been a little bit different, or at least his normal tendencies have been slightly shifted enough to a degree where it's noticeable. Whereas before he was someone who would completely trust and lean on his fellow classmates when he needed to, or just when he felt he couldn't hold on to the burden any longer, now instead of leaning on his classmates, instead of leaning on his allies and his friends and everybody that he cares about and loves, Deku simply leaves UA and strikes out on his own and brings the fight to Shigaraki and to bring All For One to justice. This, while nothing extremely majorly out of character, on its own does show a shift in Deku's character into some more extreme cases. His form of protection warps from purely fighting alongside you to leaving you as far away from him as possible in order to keep the attention away from you. And honestly, when you look at the fact that Horikoshi's inspirations stem a lot from comic books, especially characters like Spider-Man and things like that, where the characters and the superheroes distance themselves from their loved ones in order to keep them safe, it makes a lot of sense that Deku, the main character of a comic book inspired series, would take a similar path throughout the manga. This, while a logical idea, does clash with his previous one, which I personally think was Horikoshi's way of saying and showing that Deku was changing into a much more burdened character than he once was, kind of taking on the mantle of a true, quote-unquote, typical Western comic book hero where they really have to carry the weight of the world, their friends, their family, and their loved ones on their shoulders all alone, or at least so many times they think. In the most recent chapters, he is also able to display a change in Deku's character through visual storytelling several times to reinforce this idea. If you don't remember, in the last page of chapter 306, Deku was shown to be standing on a building, high up, all alone, preparing himself to face a villain. The usual light in his eyes was dimmed, and the usual effervescent personality of his was gone. And while we later find out that he's working with All Might along with other heroes, it doesn't change the fact that internally he feels alone. And through this page, this beautifully illustrated page, he is also alone. As he overlooks this city, the buildings are crumbling around him, just like his own personal world seems to crumble. His mental state seems to be deteriorating, and all of his ability to lean on others in order to gain strength seems to be gone as well. To dive just one step deeper into, I think, the masterclass visual storytelling that Horikoshi uses, Let's take a look at the last time we see him without a mask in the Nagant fight. Now, we know that Lady Nagant was a pretty difficult fight for him and forced him to evolve not only as a hero, and also evolve as a fighter. However, he stayed true to his motives and reached out a helping hand to Nagant when she needed it most. Deku's pure heart being on display is not only shown through his eyes, but through his mask being down, the emotional and mental wall being lowered. And how was Deku rewarded for this? What happens when Deku takes off his mask and lowers his emotional guard? What does this result in? Well, it blows up in his face. Like I've been saying, this is some truly amazing visual storytelling on Horikoshi's part. The fact that the last time Deku lets his emotional guard down, it resulted in him literally being blown up and it blowing up in his face represents to him at least that the time for emotions and vulnerability is over, which is what in turn forces him to push everyone away and immediately beat the next assassin with no difficulty. And when you look at the fact that Deku is so far gone, he's so broken, so deteriorated, so negative, and feeling so much pressure to keep every single person safe on his own that he's pushed away his idol All Might, you see how tragic of a character arc Deku seems to be going on. Now, really quickly, do you want to know the key difference between how Lady Nagant and Deku's conflict versus Deku and the second assassins went? Well, simply put, it's the mask. The mask, representing Deku's hardened exterior with no emotions, no sympathy, and no allies, is what allows him in an instant to take out another assassin when he struggled for chapters upon chapters against Lady Nagant. Now, is it possible that the assassin that Deku fought the second time around just wasn't as strong? Of course. However, the narrative impact and thematic impact of Deku winning so easily is not diminished in the slightest because of this. Because human beings can't truly comprehend all of the stimuli that go on around them, especially when in times of crisis or directly after they experience some severe trauma, whether it be mentally, emotionally, and physically, which Deku has checked off all of the boxes above, they tie themselves to very seemingly small and minuscule things that make them feel better or safer in better and safer times. Now, this might just be me reading a little bit too much into the manga and maybe giving Horikoshi too much credit. However, to me, I think it's possible that subconsciously Deku has made the connection that the mask, and that with the mask and with his cold heart, nothing can hurt him and nobody can hurt who he loves. And if that's the case, he'll simply dive deeper and deeper into the darkest parts of the hero society to keep everyone safe, like a true hero would. However, Deku was angry, Deku is determined, he's altruistic, and he's heroic. All of these feelings clash internally, and rather than deal with them and deconstruct them as he needs to, he pushes himself further and further into the darkness that being a hero forces you to see. Just like All Might in the past, Deku is forcing himself to be the one and only person to save the world, even though it simply isn't possible. Honestly, while earlier in the video I stated that the start of this negative arc, or at least where the start of this negative arc drastically started happening right after the war, there are hints and little moments of Deku's rage that foreshadow Deku becoming the sort of hero, the dark hero, the lonely hero that he is now, if you will. As early as chapter 286, it's been foreshadowed by both Bakugo's words to Deku and his reaction that he is not able to continue to lift the burdens of all this pain and suffering of not only the world, not only himself, not only his friends, but the villains as well. As Bakugo tells him to stop trying to do everything on his own directly after being stabbed, this thought and this advice is quickly discarded as Shigaraki insults Bakugo, enraging Deku to the point of near insanity. This also may just be me, but doesn't Deku's rage when he launches himself towards Shigaraki kind of remind you how he looks when he has his mask on, at least in the most recent chapters? If you're like me and think that they hold a surprising resemblance, this further entrenches Horikoshi as an outstanding writer who's able to string together threads as he's been building for years together to get an amazing, chilling, and honestly gut-wrenching twist for his main character. For all of my fellow My Hero Academia fans, let me know if I hit the nail on the head here. I was planning on making this video sooner, actually with the release of last chapter. However, I think dedicating a bit more time and energy to really get the analysis of the most recent events was worth it. I feel like it came out to be a much better video, and I do hope that you guys did enjoy it. If you guys did end up enjoying the video and want to see more My Hero Academia content like this on a regular basis, consider subscribing and hitting the bell, as well as liking the video, as this lets me know exactly what type of content you guys want to see in the future. Links to similar videos will be in the end screen and in the description below for you guys to enjoy at your own leisure. But in any case, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and as always, this is Broken Ronin, signing off.